There's a whole industry around mindfulness as well, but often we actually don't know what it looks like. And in a way, this film is an example of what it can look like in someone's life, but in someone's whole life. And so that was important, just to say slow down and live each moment. The seeds for that film were sown in about 1985, and with the exhibition, the retrospective of Kobi's work, which went through public galleries in New Zealand, and then Damien Skinner wrote a history or a biography on Kobi called Kobi Bosshard, Goldsmith. And it seemed an appropriate time to make the film because the other things looked at him solely in the context of a professional life. And as you know from the film, his whole attitude is that all aspects of one's life feed into your work. And so that's when we thought, well, we have to make the film about his whole life. And obviously that had to include me being part of the family as well. It was 4 years, pretty consistently. And in a way, filming over that sort of time, it allows for things to happen over the course of that amount of time for the filmmaker or for us to discover paths which we wouldn't have anticipated right at the beginning. So over that period of 4 years, obviously, Rolf, his childhood friend, rings up and says, I'm dying. And we'd never anticipated that, obviously. But it did lead us to look at all those themes of growing up, of growing old, accepting the aging process, saying goodbye to people you love and saying goodbye really properly, and also accepting, one's imminent death.
There's a lot of trust involved in making documentaries.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, on the one hand, it would appear that you're Kobi's daughter, he would have trusted you to do this, but on the other hand, I know that suddenly when you do become the focus of something, it does change the subject's perspective over time. Did you have those conversations with Kobi about how he was being presented or what your approach might be?
Not specifically, but the trust was always there right from the very beginning. And both my parents had seen Shane Loader, who I co-directed that film with. They'd seen us fail miserably, feel we were hopeless as filmmakers, that we were failures. It's the rises and falls of our own careers and the disappointments, I guess, in the same way that we had observed Kobi and Patricia's relationship go up and down over a long period of time as well. And so there was nothing to hide. There were no secrets at all. And so that was actually a very good starting point. But there was the implicit condition that whatever we filmed and whatever we talked about, there was no areas that were off limits, but that whatever we did, we would treat with respect and kindness and generosity. In New Zealand, we often say, cutaways, it's a cutaway, we want a cutaway here, we've got 2 difficult shots to put together, so let's slap them. But we deliberately spent a lot of time filming insects, filming flowers, filming the landscape, filming all sorts of seemingly unrelated things, but saying, well, it's all part of the bigger picture. Said in France, they call them spirit shots. And we just thought, yes, that articulates exactly what those shots are about, that they have an emotional impact. And you can't explain it because you can't explain emotions, really. So, for example, Kobi gets the phone call from his friend Rolf, and then we cut to a shot of a huge willow tree. And it just works. We can't tell you why a willow tree works, but it gives some sort of emotional resonance.
I like the tea towels on the line.
Yes.
I mean, it's in some ways so prosaic, but it was so beautiful at that moment.
Yeah, and so for us it was important to have that library of footage there, that we gathered that footage very carefully so that we could say, well, let's try this and see what actually happens. Well, actually, it was reasonably straightforward in this case, which I find myself amazed to say, and that was because it was through Creative New Zealand, the Arts Council. they will fund films on artists. That's all. They used to fund films, all sorts of experimental or films that didn't fit, quite conventional paradigms. But that has since been taken over by the Film Commission, and so we're seeing much narrower idea of what film is about. So the Arts Council were fantastic to deal with, and they have the trust in you. That's what is so important, what we really cherish as filmmakers, that they say, here's the money, you go and make the film, and we are hands off. And it's allowed to fail, It doesn't have to necessarily work. So it means you can be more experimental. You're given permission to play a little bit. One of the things that's really touched me, actually, and that was a result of, putting the film in front of audiences during the festival, was that I hadn't realised how important his jewellery... I knew his jewellery was significant in the context of the cultural heritage of New Zealand craft, but I hadn't realised just how important it was to individuals, to people in their families, and that these pieces of jewellery, people would come up to us after the screenings and say, I've got a ring of his or a bangle of his, or so-and-so gave me this, or whatever. And that there are stories surrounding those pieces of jewellery, and those pieces of jewellery serve as a catalyst for people's memories. And as a filmmaker and a storyteller, that was quite a discovery for me to realise that actually Kobi's jewellery was there telling stories as well in people's lives.